Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Nice. Thanks for joining. It's been a little while since we've had one of these. Things got pretty busy, but we've decided that we'd love to do these from time to time still because we thought it was a really useful way to engage with folks. I have a number of different updates on COVID and a few other things. And also, I'm going to hand it over to the team in a couple different spots. We've seen only a very slow increase in cases in New Haven, which is really good news. It's an average of maybe around 4 new cases a day that we're getting in from our testing results. Right now, over the course of the virus, we've seen 2,712 positive cases and 112 fatalities. And I'll just share my screen for a sec. The blue line is New Haven, the gray line is Connecticut cases. And so you can see that overall our trending is in a really good place. And I think a lot of the reason for that is people following the social distancing guidance, and really people wearing masks. I've been seeing people wearing masks everywhere I go, and occasionally you'll see someone not wearing a mask, but generally people have really been abiding by those orders. I also think we've had a little bit of luck, and we just need to be super vigilant given what's going on in so many other states, and given the upcoming 4th of July weekend where people might be gathering together. We need to keep on top of this and keep vigilant. For a couple updates on testing. So as has been shared, at least with the New Haven Independent, we've changed a little bit of our testing situation. We continue to have Dr. Murphy's group doing testing at Chapel and Day twice a week. We started to do one day, Wednesday on the New Haven Green, and we'll continue to do that. Yesterday, we had 98 people be tested on the Green, which was great because we didn't really advertise it a lot. And so we anticipate that site just being much more utilized because of the convenience of downtown. Compared to many of our other sites where we've had Dr. Murphy testing, that's really high numbers. And so we were happy with those results. We're close to finalizing the agreement on the Strong School, the use of the Strong School by Yale New Haven Hospital for testing, and hoping to finalize that relatively soon and move that forward. And I know that the hospital is looking for a couple of other sites around the city. And I will be sharing some information down the road on that. And Fairhaven Health and Cornell Scott are still operating their 2 testing sites. On the individuals experiencing homelessness, as you'll recall, there were 2 hotels that were housing people experiencing homelessness. We've tested everyone in both of those hotels, and each hotel had only 1 individual that tested positive, which is really good news. And again, a sign that in Connecticut, our cases are pretty low right now. Yesterday, we moved everyone to just 1 hotel, and that's because of a decrease in the demand for rooms. Typically during the summer, there's a decrease in demand for shelter because the weather is nicer. But also our team, in partnership with a number of the nonprofits associated with the Coordinated Access Network, have been working very hard to house people. So far, 222 people have been housed, and 59 just in June. There are approximately 120 to 130 people left in the hotel, and our goal is to house those remaining individuals by September. There's been a ton of work going into that, and I think the vision of ensuring that people that needed a shelter before don't have to go back to a shelter, and us doing that in a really comprehensive way is something that is inspiring, and we're seeing that actually come to fruition, not just in New Haven, but around the state with the 1,000 Homes Initiative. Nursing homes. Director Bond, would you mind giving an update on nursing homes?
Sure. I'm going to share my screen. Can you let me share the screen? So currently for nursing homes, we've been still monitoring and tracking the cases. There's been a lot of PPS testing, point prevalence survey testing, being conducted by local partners, both at the state level and of their Fairhaven Community Health Center. We've seen a slight uptick with cases at at advanced nursing, Grimes. We had an additional 6 cases from the 99 that we previously reported. And at Regal Care, we have seen 7 additional cases from our previous report early in June, from 57 to 64. So we will continue to monitor that and work with, I'm going to share the screen now, and work with the state as well as the local partners to ensure that the health and safety measures are being adhered to. And so this is just an example of sort of the cases. So it's a slight uptick in 2 particular nursing homes. We are also tracking the untimely case fatalities, and we have not seen any changes with the case fatalities. They have remained steady, and so that's actually good news. So we will continue to do that. They're also tracking employees at the nursing homes, and so the staff has also remained pretty steady. And so we will continue to monitor staff, although it's not as consistent because not all employees are captured in the testing because it is optional for the employees for some of the centers. So that concludes my nursing home numbers. This is just another visual that I would like to share in regards to the percentages of the cases at the Grimes Center and how many are 4% of which were hospitalized, 91 have been resolved. So we will continue to keep an eye on each of the different sites. There have been no changes reported from Mary Wade from the 60 previous cases that we had tracked and monitored. And so that's also good news from the Mary Wade Nursing Home. They've done a tremendous job in trying to really do some cohorting of their patients. This is just a visual of Regal Care, and I will certainly share this if anyone needs any of the images. And then this is also the latest update. So that concludes my report.
Thanks, Director Bond. Just a few other updates. I think it's been a while, so there's a lot to cover. We have closed our operation at the University of New Haven. As you'll recall, there were public safety officers that were staying there to reduce their risk of potential exposure to COVID. And we no longer have the need for that site, and we're very grateful to UNH for letting us use that site. Albertus Magnus, as you'll recall, is a site that we are using for people that test positive for COVID, but may not have the ability to self-isolate for a variety of different reasons. We've had a couple people stay there, but currently there's no one staying there and it's on standby. We're really happy to have that site in case there's the need for it. We're going to be hosting an events webinar next week. We haven't finalized the day and time yet, but the goal of that will be to share some of the governor's guidance on if people are hosting an event, like street festival, those sorts of things. And we're doing that as a part of our initiative to help support organizations that as we slowly open up. And on the events note, the Grand Prix has been canceled. Splash pads have been turned on, and so they are now operational. 4th of July. We're just a reminder to continue to wear masks and social distance as people get together for celebration of the holiday. Lighthouse will be open, Lighthouse Point Park, and we'll be increasing the capacity of the number of cars that go inside from 100, which is what it currently is, to 250, which is still lower than the maximum capacity. We've been pretty happy with the results so far after we opened just around Memorial Day, and think that we can increase it so that more people can use the park. And also on the July 4th weekend, I wanted to turn it over to Chief Alston to talk about fireworks. We've had significant complaints about the use of fireworks around the city. We're not alone. I know that other cities in Connecticut and around the nation are experiencing the same thing. And I wanted to ask Chief Alston to share a little bit of what we're doing in that area.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. Fireworks have always been a symbol of celebration, ending of wars, celebration of our independence. We kind of expect them during the holidays, 4th of July, Memorial Day, New Year's. We have seen an inordinate number of instances. Give you an example, data we're tracking last year, first 3 weeks of June, we had approximately 30 to 40 calls for fireworks citywide. This year, the same time frame, over 300. They are into the night, many times between 8 o'clock and as soon as it's dusk on into 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. We're concerned about that. We're concerned on the health and safety side because fireworks, for the most part, are illegal in the state of Connecticut. In other words, if it goes boom or goes up in the air, it's illegal. And we know that people are selling them. We're getting reports of places that are selling them, and we're investigating them along with the Connecticut State Police. We are looking into those matters, but there are so many injuries. Many times, 44% of the time, people are injured. And I won't put any of those images up, but there are horrific injuries where folks have lost fingers, whole hands, holes in their sides, their clothes have caught on fire. It is a major concern. On the health and safety side, we're concerned about our elderly, those with diminished capacity, our children, our pets become disoriented when the fireworks are going off. But most importantly, our veterans who have served our country well with distinction are returning home now and being bombarded literally with fireworks and mortars that are going off that are causing them to relive their traumatic experiences during their time of deployment, are contacting our office. There are so many calls that are coming in. There's not a lot that we can do other than under the mayor's direction, we formed a task force, a fireworks task force, where members of our department and the police department are now responding to those calls and responding to those places that we know are frequented by folks who set these fireworks off to try and curtail it, inform, and if necessary, arrest. We have the noise ordinance on our side. We also have the fact that they're in possession of illegal fireworks. What we want to try and push is to celebrate safely. Thank you, Mayor. You put up the fireworks safety fact sheet, and that's put out by the National Fire Protection Association. It is one of our standard organizations and associations that tracks best practices. We want people to celebrate safely. So the Fireworks Task Force is operating in the evenings between the hours of 10 and 2 in the morning. They're responding to the calls that come in. And most times when they show up, people disperse and run away and we confiscate the fireworks. They will continue to do that throughout this weekend. And we're going to be mindful, Mayor, of our overtime, but that's the time when people are lighting them up. If I can share the screen, I just wanted to show thank you. One of the fires that we had a couple of years ago was the Walnut Street fire. This was a fire where folks had used fireworks. They reported that they soaked them to put them out, some of the duds that they had, and they threw them into a trash bin. Well, in the middle of the night, the trash bin lit up. It melted, lit the side of the house, and burned 2 homes, and 7 families were displaced. These fireworks are dangerous through the misuse and also the improper disposal. We're also going to pivot to, we've seen an increase in fires as well. Now that people have been home for a long time, we're seeing an increase in the number of fires that we're responding to. Many of them start out very small. They are cooking fires. They are improper disposal of smoking materials. And we've been responding to a fire almost every day for the last 2 weeks. And so we just want people to be safe and be mindful, celebrate safely. And other than that, there's also a health risk because they're lighting so many fireworks. that the smoke from the fireworks, because we have high humidity, anytime we have more than 78% humidity, the smoke doesn't lift. So people who have compromised immune systems, compromised respiratory systems are now experiencing distress as well. In other words, fireworks, they're illegal, they're unhealthy, and they're unsafe. And we would just ask you to push that message out. That's all I got, Mayor.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. I got a couple other quick updates and then we can hand over to questions. Let's see. We're concerned about an increase in shootings and homicides in the city. Last year at this time, there were 36 non-fatal shootings, and this year there have been 43. And there have been 6 homicides last year at this time, and there have been 8 so far this year. We've been discussing how to deal with the situation and make sure that we, number one, follow up with the incidents that already happened and engage with people that are suspected of being involved. And number two, make sure that we're more proactively working to stop potential additional incidents. Because of COVID, it's to date been more difficult for us to engage in the traditional ways that we do with individuals that may be involved in these incidents. But now that we have a little bit better understanding about how the virus works, we're working to restart in a slightly different way some of those initiatives. And in particular, physical visits to homes of people that may be suspected of being involved in some of the violence is something that we will start doing again. And through Project Longevity, re-implementing call-ins, again, to engage with people that are involved in this type of behavior. And so we'll be starting to do that relatively quickly. And then the final thing I want to talk about is just some of the direction that we're headed in regarding police accountability and rethinking public safety. And there's a lot of different things to think about. And I know that I've been doing a lot of thinking and listening around this, and I know a lot of other people have as well. There's a couple of things that we're working on proactively. You can anticipate that the Board of Alders will be submitting the list for the Civilian Review Board this coming Monday for the remaining seats that have not yet been filled. I provided some suggestions to them on names. We're working to support the Police Commission, exercising solid oversight. I'm enthusiastic that Tracy Mears' appointment will be will bring some procedural justice lens to the work that is being done on the Police Commission. And I'm optimistic that the Board of Alders will finalize her appointment. We're also trying to make the process for reporting any incidents easier. And it's even little things like there wasn't a Spanish language form on the website for reporting an incident with an officer. And so we've done that, but we're working to facilitate that being even easier. We're looking at updating our use of force policies. A lot of our policies have already incorporated the 8 can't wait kind of theme that's been shared around the nation. But we want to tighten some of that language, and in particular, the duty to intervene language. And we're working on that now with our Corporation Counsel's office and the police department. And we're also looking to share more data and planning on doing that in a more interactive website. Everything from crime statistics to use of force data to internal affairs statistics. Beyond that, I think we're all doing some broader thinking about how to keep communities safe. And this is a more longer term approach that will require a lot more work, but there's opportunities around civilianizing parts of our police force. we're reviewing the dispatch calls that our 911 and non-emergency call centers receive, in analyzing the potential that someone that's not a police officer could respond to a lot of those calls. And we think there's a lot of opportunity there to potentially create a crisis response team. These things take a little bit of time, as people can imagine, but it's something that we're working on. And we also want to make sure that we're engaging the public in this process. And so we're talking about how to best do that to ensure people have a voice in input. And a lot of different types of people have a voice in the direction we head. On that note, as folks know, I spent a lot of time in the first couple of months of my administration having coffee with the mayor, have a beer with the mayor type of events. That's become more difficult with COVID. But we're going to start having outside meet the mayor gatherings. So the mayor's on your street corner and you park, that sort of thing. And we're starting next week on Wednesday at the Learning Corridor in New Hallville, where I'm going to be there from 5 to 6:30 in case people want to stop by and talk about anything. That's a lot of stuff. Are there any questions? Go ahead, Tom.
I forgot how to raise my hand in this thing.
It's been that long, huh?
For Chief Alston, thank you very much for that presentation. Chief, you went through some of the pretty terrifying sounding potential injuries one can incur when around fireworks. Has the city seen those types of injuries taking place with this increase in calls about fireworks, or are you just warning that these kinds of things can happen?
Currently, we're warning. We are always on the lookout for burn injuries. Anytime there's a burn injury that we respond to or is reported to the hospital, it's investigated by us. So we haven't had any significant reports of injuries. If I can, there's a quick chart I'll send out to you that will show the types of injuries and the percentage of those injuries. But if you just go on and search the web, you'll see some of the types of injuries that we hope we'll never experience here in the city of New Haven.
Thank you. And Mayor, do you have any updates on when City Hall, or kind of what's taking place at City Hall? Is it open to the public now, or are departments currently working from City Hall, but it's not, I don't know. Is there an update that you can give about what's happening at City Hall?
Mr. Jackson, do you want to handle that one?
Certainly. So we have a cascading series of items happening at City Hall. Certain offices are open, tax office, accounts receivable, assessor's office. Other offices are open by appointment only. And so folks who are looking to utilize city services at 165 Church or 200 Orange should call the office and get an understanding of what their open or what their posture is at this moment. Other items such as public works, parks, obviously police, fire, and dispatch have stayed open the whole time. But the word to the residents who are seeking services is call first, and make sure that you understand what the posture of the office is.
And that's true for tax office and the ones that you just listed that are still City Hall residents.
Those are open. Assessor, collector, accounts receivable are open to the public. However, it's different than it used to be because of social distancing, and so we're sort of snaking lines around the first floor of City Hall, and many people don't need to come to City Hall. That's another thing that hopefully we can get the message out on. Because you've come to City Hall to pay your taxes for the last 10 years doesn't mean you didn't need to come this year. There are other ways.
You still need to pay your taxes, but
you pay your taxes, but you don't necessarily have to come in. And so I would encourage folks to pick up the phone and call before they come in, just to protect them, to protect their families, protect our workforce. Just call in advance.
Thank you. I see Gage just wrote first floor of 165 to me. What does that
I
mean?
was
First
just
floor?
explaining a lot of those departments are on the first floor.
Oh, I see. Okay.
165 Church Street. Very cryptic. Sorry about that.
No, thank you, Gage.
Yeah, so Tom, we did kind of a soft opening. Was it like 2 weeks ago, Scott?
A little bit more than that. We have processed probably at this point 22 or 2,300 people through the building at 165 Church Street, without advertising it, without making a big splash about it, just saying we are open for business.
And I don't know if you have updated information, but when we did that soft opening, my understanding is that we were pretty much the only municipality in the state that had opened. Is that correct?
That is correct for unscheduled access. That is correct. We went through CCM to do a little bit of run through the other municipalities, and it appeared that we were the first to just open the front door.
And Tom, you can if you come into City Hall, there's some of the kind of infrastructure changes to just ensure that people are safe. There's a front desk now that's been set up with plexiglass to guide people when they come in, and there's stickers on the floor for social distancing, those sorts of things that Mr. Jackson has been spearheading as a part of his role in helping City Hall reopen.
Thank you. And then one last question for you, Mayor, and it's kind of a bigger picture one. As even though New Haven's and Connecticut's cases and hospitalizations seem to be on pretty steady decline, that's certainly not the case around the country. And so I wonder, as you reflect on all of the actions that the city took towards the start of this crisis, what you think the city might revert back to if we do see an upswing in the fall, or what you think worked particularly well and what didn't work well? Any reflections on what the city did and might do again if there's another uptick?
Sure. So one thing I think that is interesting is the states that were hit very hard in the beginning of this crisis generally are doing better now. And I think that some of our compliance with the social distancing and mask wearing is because our state and New Haven have worked very hard to base our decisions on science and not political rhetoric. I think some of it is also because almost every single person in the state has experienced COVID-19 personally, with a relative that's gotten sick themselves, that have gotten sick, or a loved one that's died. And because of that, I think people understand the severity of it and are much more likely, because of that, to follow the guidelines we're putting out, because they know that if they don't, what can happen. And so my general sense is, and my hope is, that we will keep this low trend because of the work that people are doing. All that being said, inevitably we're going to be having other people from other states impacting us. And I think the things that we have done very well and will do even better now because of the strong partnership with the state is around contact tracing, to be on top of things quite quickly. The fact that we have a facility to allow people to self-isolate who may not. The fact that I don't think that there's as much concern about shame around the virus as there was initially, because there was a lot of unknowns about who was getting it and who wasn't. That people are more likely to get help quickly and proactively get tested. I think that as far as things that could have gone better, I think we'll be thinking back a long time on that. I think in general, we all probably could have done a lot more work on making sure nursing homes were supported, and the state system now, in partnership with our local federally qualified health centers, in testing and separating people out, dramatically will reduce the I believe, will dramatically reduce the potential for significant outbreaks in our nursing homes. I think that's one area that we could have done better initially. I'm sure there's other areas as well.
Thank you.
Yep, Brian. You're on mute. There you go.
Hi, looks like it's better. So I'm curious about, obviously the state is preparing for schools to return in full in the fall. It might be a little bit more complicated for New Haven, you know, running an inter-district magnet program and just being a densely populated urban district with pretty full schools. Is that something that you, I mean, do you feel like the city's supported by the state in a full return to school?
I think that we've got a lot of challenges to work on this front. And it's everything from making sure that, for example, the state's given parents the option and families the option to not send their children to school if they don't feel comfortable. And that makes it difficult for a teacher that has to teach in person and offer online learning to children to actually do that. The state's requiring every school to have a nurse. And as folks know, we have serious budget problems, and we currently don't have a nurse for every school. And so we have to figure out a way to manage that. And there's a lot of different examples of like that will make it more challenging for us to work through what things are going to look like in the fall. I know Dr. Tracy's team is working very hard on that. I was on a call with our executive team earlier this week, just listening into how they're processing all these things. And you know, we'll figure it out. We always do, but I think it's not just either you figured it out or you don't. Particularly with the online access to online learning, it's just very, very difficult for us in New Haven to provide the kind of quality education that a suburban town might be able to provide. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all. Take care.
Have a safe holiday, everyone. Be well.
Happy 4th.